Can we turn on this overhead light, please?
Hello, everybody. This is Gabriel Cavazos. I'm here with Jim Gale, who is the originator and the founder of this amazing project in the Costa Rican rainforest. I've been here for several days now, and we are excited to have the opportunity to be working with Jim and his fabulous project here and his vision of creating an off-the-grid, very organic, eco-driven community that has incredible social resources, everything for the future of what a lot of people are migrating to. Jim, it's a pleasure, man. Thank you for inviting us up here and talk to us a little bit about how this all got started.
Well, first I want to say that I'm just one person amongst many, and it takes a community to grow a community. So we've got an amazing group of people who are part of this. I just happen to be fortunate to be the kind of the first guy on the ground, but without the rest of them, of course, nothing can be accomplished. So it started a bunch of years back when our paradigms started to change in the world with regards to all the events going on in the world, and we were looking at doing something more sustainable and kind of going back to the old school. In fact, a lot of people used to say, tell me that we weren't creating anything new. My mom, for instance, who grew up on a farm, she said that's just the way it was back in the old days. Everybody was living sustainable, and everybody had chickens and eggs, and I came from Minnesota, so we didn't have the fruit trees like we have down here. But sustainability was natural, and we've gotten away from that over the past 40, 50, 60 years, and we're going back to it, and we're adding technology and keeping things as simple as possible, and it is taking off.
Well, the question that I have for you, Jim, is we're setting in the villa of Bob and Luann Crosby, who have a fabulous history in their involvement in energy, alternative energy, living and what have you. And we're in one of the actual models that was built here in the Osa Mountain Village project, which is actually the pilot project, correct?
Yes, Osa Mountain Village is the first project of what we believe will be many. The success, it's accelerating at a rapid rate. People want to get out of the rat race, and they want to do something different, live a different way. And I was just asked not too long ago, do you feel isolated up here on the mountain? And I have never felt such a sense of community as I do now. In other words, we feel less isolated. I feel less isolated than I've ever felt in my life. I've been in the suburbs for years in Minnesota and around the U.S., and I felt isolated then. I do not here. Pura vida.
Wow, and so he just said pura vida, which is a Spanish gesture that everybody says all the time, and greeting each other and leaving each other, and the community environment, I can tell you for the time that I've been here, is like nowhere else that I've ever been in my life. And the environment here in the rainforest, one of the things when I was getting ready to leave Detroit was I was asked, well, shouldn't have you gotten some shots, and aren't you worried about getting malaria and all these things that people think exist over here? Actually, I really have to say that I don't think that I've ever been in a more pure and clean-natured environment in my entire life. Everywhere. Talk to us a little bit about what the element that we're actually in terms of the rainforest.
Yeah, well, Costa Rica is now, according to several years in a row of studies, it's the happiest country on earth. You can look that up. That says it all, doesn't it? I mean, really. It's also the greenest country on earth. About 25% of Costa Rican's land is dedicated to national parks. And another 25% or so is untouchable. In other words, it's primary or secondary jungle, which cannot be cut. So near 50% of the land here is green, and I think that makes a big difference. Costa Rica has blue zones, which have some of the longest lifespans in the world, and the people, pura vida means pure life. And if that's your mantra as a culture, it filters through.
And that is exactly what is going on here. This first project that was a vision of Jim's, is a project that is on the grid. And when I look at it, I see like even still a very strong presence of the forward movement that you're migrating into your new model with Serenity, which is a total off-the-grid project. So talk to us a little bit about what being on the grid and off the grid actually means.
Well, actually, I'd like Bob Crosby to talk more about that.
Yeah,
We have
wonderful.
some experts in fields, and Bob is way up there when it comes to sustainable energy and alternative energies. So, Bob, would you like to jump up and say a word?
Sure.
Wonderful. Hello, everybody. This is Bob Crosby. He's here with his wonderful wife, Luann, who made us an incredible. I could not hold on to the plate because I actually wanted to show you the plate of food that she had prepared here from all of the organic food that is being actually grown here, and it's all happening because of both of their works. And Bob, it's been such a total pleasure to meet you and be here and to see what the wonderful work you're doing here. So
Likewise.
please tell us what's going on here.
Well, where to start? Luann and I we were originally from Alaska. We lived there about 45 years. We built a house called the Bio Shelter there with a fully closed water system. It was a live-in lab that gave us opportunity to develop some technologies, appropriate technologies. And we came to Costa Rica about 5 years ago and found Osa Mountain Village about a couple of years ago, and fell in love with it and are here. And now we're taking some of those ideas and principles and things that we had developed over the years and adapting them to here. So basically off-grid means that you're not connected to the utility, the electric company. And there's a lot of people in the world who are familiar with that and live that lifestyle. Living in cabins, it means solar panels on the roof. We have the Serenity Gardens project has a wonderful river running through it that we're looking at taking hydroelectric power off of. We've planted fuel crops there for a diesel generator or biodiesel. And we're right now in the process of integrating these whole things into a net metering scheme where it's, I won't go into the details of what that is, but basically where every consumer is also a producer sharing. If they're producing more than they're consuming, it goes into our own local grid. So we are off-grid in terms of the national grid of the electric company, but we're on our own mini-grid.
Okay, so if this source attraction goes into a central grid, is it accumulating additional extra power?
It's on a sunny day or when the river's at its peak and the people aren't using more than they're producing, yes. It's basically the way the national grid works is that you have a power plant in one state, and you have a hydroelectric dam at Hoover Dam or whatever, and if the people in that part of the country aren't using what the local resource is producing, it slides around to the people who are. So we're doing a miniature version of that.
Okay, so Jim, when you got well into your Osa Mountain project, when did it come? No, stay right here, Bob, because it's going to lead into more questioning with you. When did it cross your mind that you actually wanted to move towards an off-grid situation?
Well, actually, after I met Bob and learned that a lot of people right now are asking, what does it mean to me to be off-grid? Do I have to live in a hut? Am I going to have to, live in a way that I don't want to live? And the more I've learned after talking with Bob is that absolutely we can have all of the amenities and basically the same lifestyle that we have wherever we are from in the suburbs. And that makes all the difference to a lot of our buyers. We don't want to feel like we're living in huts, completely in the middle of nowhere. Off-grid simply means we're not tied up to the ESA grid. We're creating our own energy.
That's fabulous. Now, I have a question for you, Bob, with respect to accomplishing the energy source. How are you utilizing that for the agriculture and everything else that is kind of flowing into the whole energy source system? Because when I went to visit the Serenity property, you already have tilapia farming going on. I see that all the water is being rerouted from the natural waterfalls all the way down through into the tilapia pools and rerouted back into its natural stream, correct?
Yeah.
So can you talk to us a little bit about that entire process?
Yeah, the food production, there's a lot of fruit trees have already been planted in the tilapia ponds that Gabriel's talking about, and I'm not particularly in on that end of it, but in terms on the energy side, one of my favorite standard lines is that you don't put sails on tugboats. So the place to start is with making sailboats. So every house is super energy efficient with low voltage or low wattage LED lighting, super efficient appliances. And Amory Lovin's coined a term called negawatts as opposed to megawatts. You start with efficiency. And then once you've done that, then it reduces the load so that that determines how many solar panels you need on your roof or how much flow you need to get from the river. So right now we're in the process of assessing the resource in the permitting process to use the river, and measuring the flow rates and calculating what we can get from it. And we have collected solar data for the site, and we're collecting wind data up there right now. So right now we're in the process of assessing all the cumulative, all the different resources, and trying to match them with a demand. So if every one of the home sites on there is designed specifically to be as highly efficient and self-reliant as possible, reduce the load, then the goal is to balance the demand with the supply.
Fabulous. So what we're talking about here is off-the-grid living in Costa Rican rainforest. I got to tell you, when I left Detroit, everybody was telling me, like, are you going to come back? and I'm going like, well, I don't know. I'm not really sure what I'm going to expect when I get there. But I got to tell you, I'm not going back. So I've been fortunate enough to share some incredible time here with some amazing people, and I'm learning so much more about what it is I want to spend doing the rest of my life, and it's right here in this rainforest for the next umpteen years. They're going to plant me in the rainforest and put a stake over the top of my head and said, I maybe did something right. So, but I love being a part of what's going on here. We have a lot of the social feeling, the social vibe that is here is so pure and full of nothing but positive energy. And we're fortunate enough tonight to have some of the people that are actually living here with us. And we're going to kind of let you get a little bit of the take on some of the individuals that have purchased some of the property here at Osa Mountain. We do have Dr. D, who is here, who is one of the property owners as well. And I'd just like you to introduce Dr. D to you. He is Pakistani and nationality, right? Indian.
Originally.
But you said you were American. Yeah, I remember you told me you weren't. Didn't he say he was from Pakistan when you were there?
No.
You did? So he's from India. My apologies. And we have
No problem.
No problem. So
Pakistan used to be part of India. So.
that's no problem. But Dr. D, can you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and what actually attracted you to this entire project?
Well, initially what I started looking for was a place to get away from the darn cold in Georgia. One really bad winter, and I'd been to Costa Rica for a week before then. And so I was looking around, and also popped up, and I got in touch with Jim, and he said he's doing this crazy thing here that was too good to believe, so I came down to see for myself. And when I did, I bought myself a villa. They really are doing all the things that they keep saying that they plan to do, and a lot more that I never heard about before either. So that's kind of the short story of how I ended up here. I'm a retired professor of business administration, worked 21 years in Louisiana and moved to Georgia, and I'm living there a retired life, and here I am.
And what exactly is it that you love about being here?
Well, to begin with, the people, clearly. I was just remarking to some friends that, you know what it has been? My whole life has been around academicians, all of them academicians. And here, none of them are really academicians to speak of, but they are all people that I am able to talk to. Whereas my colleagues I was not all able to talk to. The accounting people I wasn't able to. So there was like 4 or 5 people that you could talk to about anything. And the academicians somehow have a fairly narrow, you know, sort of a perspective on life. I guess it's the way they're trained. And consequently, you know, I was never really very happy in an academic situation, because I always wanted to talk about solving the problems of the world, and nobody else did. So that's about you know, the beginning of that kind of a thing. And then Mother Nature is number 2, or maybe number 1.